The chamber door hissed shut behind her, sealing with a finality that made the guards flinch. Through the viewport, they watched her, a small figure in academy gray, shoulders squared, jaw set, standing in the center of a white-walled cube barely 3 meters across. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the glow strips, something breathed, not the steady rhythm of sleep, but the shallow pant of hunger held too long in check. The girl didn't move, she didn't speak. She only tilted her head, listening as if the sound were a question she already knew how to answer. When the lights cut to black, one of the guards whispered a prayer in Senerin. The other simply looked away. The tribunal chamber smelled like recycled air and old stone. Kael sat on the accused bench, wrists bound in shimmerlock cuffs that hummed faintly whenever she shifted. Across the platform, 3 adjudicators, Senerin, Vrathai, Quelix, regarded her with expressions ranging from pity to disdain. Behind them, the academy crest hung on the wall, 3 interlocking rings meant to symbolize unity. She'd believed in it once. Kael Rehn of Earth, the Senerin adjudicator, began, voice flat. You stand accused of unauthorized entry into restricted archives, theft of classified xenobiology data, and assault upon a faculty proctor. How do you answer? She met his gaze. I never touched him. The medical scan showed bruising, the Vrathai snapped, mandibles clicking, consistent with human grip strength. He grabbed my arm first, Kael said quietly. I pulled away. That's not assault. The Quelix adjudicator leaned forward, her translucent membrane flickering with irritation. You accessed files on apex predators from 14 quarantined worlds, files sealed under Trilateral Accord. Why? Kael hesitated. The truth that she'd been trying to understand why humans were listed alongside creatures that could shred steel felt too raw to say aloud. Instead, she said, I wanted to learn. You wanted to steal, the Vrathai corrected. Your species has a documented history of recklessness, overcuriosity, disregard for established boundaries. He gestured at a holographic display showing Earth's file, red-flagged, stamped with quarantine advisories. You are the first of your kind permitted into the Academy in 6 generations. This tribunal believed you could be different. We were wrong. The words landed like a hammer. Kael felt her chest tighten, but she kept her face still. She'd learned early that showing hurt only made them press harder. The Senerin sighed. The standard penalty for data theft is expulsion and a 6-cycle travel ban. However, given the nature of the file's access, the Trilateral Council has suggested an alternative. Kael's stomach dropped. Void exposure, the Quelix said, her voice almost gentle. 3 days in isolation, Chamber 12 with a Class 7 predator. If you survive, your record is cleared. If not, she let the sentence hang. That's not a trial, Kael said, voice hoarse. That's an execution. It's a test, the Vrathai corrected. One that measures whether a human can coexist with apex-level threats. If you truly believe your species deserves a place among us, prove it. The Senerin raised a hand. You have 1 hour to prepare. Dismissed. Kael's quarters were small, a sleep pod, a hygiene unit, a single desk bolted to the wall. She sat on the edge of the pod, staring at the cracked screen of her personal terminal. The last message from her mother was still there, 3 months old. Stay strong, sweetheart. Show them what Earth girls are made of. She almost laughed, almost. A knock at the door. Kael looked up to see Vurin, her Quelix roommate, hovering in the doorway. Vurin's membrane shimmered pale blue concern. I heard, Vurin said softly. I'm sorry. Kael shrugged. It is what it is. No, Vurin floated closer, her voice firmer. It's wrong. The archives shouldn't have been restricted in the first place. Knowledge should be. Don't. Kael forced a smile. You'll get flagged just for being here. Vurin's membrane flickered. I brought you something. She held out a small metal disc, no bigger than a coin. It's a signal beacon. If things go wrong, press the center. I'll hear it. Kael took it, feeling the weight settle in her palm. They won't let me take anything into the chamber. Hide it, Vurin said, under your tongue, in your shoe, somewhere. For a moment, Kael considered it. Then she set the disc on the desk. If I use that, I'll never clear my name. They'll just say I cheated. Kael. I'll be fine, Kael said, and the lie tasted bitter. The walk to Isolation 12 took 17 minutes. Kael counted every step. The guards flanking her, both Vrathai, kept their weapons drawn but didn't speak. When they reached the chamber entrance, one of them input a code. The door unsealed with a pneumatic hiss. Inside, the lead guard said. Kael stepped forward. The chamber was smaller than she'd expected, barely large enough to lie down in if she stretched corner to corner. The walls were white, seamless, and cold to the touch. At the far end, a second door, thicker, reinforced, waited. "The predator will be released in 30 seconds, the guard said. "If you survive 72 hours, we'll extract you. If you don't," he didn't finish. The door sealed behind her. Kael pressed her back against the wall and closed her eyes, forcing her breathing to slow. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her mind, a memory from childhood camping trips in Montana. "Fear makes you stupid. Breathe through it. Think." The far door groaned open. The thing that emerged wasn't like the hologram she'd seen in xenobiology class. It was low-slung, all muscle and ridged carapace, with 6 legs ending in claws that scraped the floor. Its head was elongated, eyeless, but covered in sensory pits that twitched as it scented the air. A crevasse. Native to a high-gravity moon orbiting a gas giant, bred in packs, known for tearing prey apart in seconds. It was also, Kael realized with a cold shock, starving. She could see it in the way its ribs pressed against its hide, the way its movements were too sharp, too desperate. They hadn't fed it. This wasn't a test, it was bait. The crevasse's head swung toward her. Its mouth opened, rows of serrated teeth designed to crush bone, and it screamed. The sound was piercing, primal, and it hit Kael like a physical blow. She pressed harder against the wall, hands flat, and forced herself to stay still. The creature charged. Kael dropped to the floor and rolled left. The crevasse slammed into the wall where she'd been standing, claws gouging deep scratches into the metal. It whipped around, faster than something that size should move, and lunged again. This time, Kael didn't dodge. She stepped into the charge, dropping under its snapping jaws and slamming her fist into its exposed throat. The crevasse choked, stumbling back. Kael didn't wait. She grabbed one of its forelegs, thick as her arm, covered in coarse hair, and twisted. The joint popped. The creature shrieked and thrashed, trying to shake her off, but she held on, using her weight to pull it off balance. It crashed to the floor. Kael let go and scrambled back, panting. The crevasse didn't get up immediately. It lay there, breathing hard, its injured leg twitching. Kael stayed crouched, ready, but the attack didn't come. Instead, the creature's sensory pits turned toward her again, slower this time, watching. "Yeah," Kael whispered, voice shaking. "Me too. The first night was the worst." The crevasse circled her, never attacking but never leaving. Kael stayed in the corner, knees drawn up, eyes open. Every time she started to drift, the creature would shift, claws clicking on the floor, and she'd jolt awake. By the time the glow strips flickered on, simulating dawn, her head was pounding and her throat was raw. The crevasse was lying near the far wall, its injured leg stretched out. Kael studied it carefully. The joint was swollen but not broken. It could still move if it wanted to. It just wasn't. Slowly, Kael stood. The creature's head lifted, pits tracking her, but it didn't rise. She edged along the wall until she was opposite it, keeping maximum distance. Then she sat. They watched each other. Hours passed. Kael's stomach cramped with hunger. Her lips were cracked. The chamber had no water, no rations. She wondered if that was part of the test too. Who would break first? "You're hungry," she said aloud, her voice hoarse. "I get it, I'm hungry too." The crevasse tilted its head. "But if you eat me," Kael continued, "they won't feed you after, you know that, right? They'll just leave you here." The creature didn't respond, obviously, but something in its posture shifted, less tension in its shoulders, more weight on its haunches. Kael took a slow breath. "So maybe we don't kill each other," she said. "Maybe we just wait." The crevasse's mouth opened slightly. For a moment, Kael thought it was about to lunge. Then it closed its jaws and settled onto the floor, tucking its injured leg beneath itself. Kael exhaled. By the second day, Kael's lips had split and her tongue felt like sandpaper. The glow strips overhead hummed faintly, a sound that burrowed into her skull and wouldn't leave. She'd stopped counting hours. Time stretched and contracted, measured only by the crevasse's breathing and the slow ache spreading through her limbs. The creature hadn't moved from its spot near the far wall. Kael watched it now, trying to read its body language the way she'd learned to read hunting dogs back on the ranch. Its sensory pits would flare every few minutes, scanning the chamber, then settle. Its tail, thick and muscular, ending in a bony club, lay still. It wasn't relaxed exactly, but it wasn't coiled to strike either. Kael shifted, wincing as her stiff legs protested. The crevasse's head snapped toward her. She froze. They stared at each other across the white expanse. Then, deliberately, Kael looked away, a submission signal, not weakness but acknowledgement. When she glanced back, the creature had lowered its head. Okay, Kael murmured. Okay. She dragged herself to her feet, using the wall for support. The crevasse tensed but didn't rise. Kael took one step forward, then another. She stopped halfway across the chamber, close enough to see the individual ridges on its carapace, the way its hide moved with each breath, close enough to die if it lunged. I'm not your enemy, she said quietly. I didn't put you here, I didn't starve you. Her voice cracked. I'm just trying to survive too. The crevasse made a low sound, not a growl, but something else. A rumble that vibrated through the floor. Kael's heart hammered, but she didn't move. The creature shifted, extending its injured leg. The joint was more swollen now, angry red beneath the dark hide. Kael knelt slowly. Can I? She reached out, palm up, fingers loose. The crevasse's pits flared, its tail twitched, but it didn't pull away. Kael touched the swollen joint gently, feeling the heat radiating from it. The creature flinched but held still. Infected, Kael whispered. You're in pain. She thought of the medical kit in her quarters, useless now. She thought of her grandfather again, the way he'd splinted a dog's broken leg with nothing but sticks and a torn shirt. She looked around the chamber. Nothing, no tools, no supplies, just bare walls and two bodies wearing down. I can't fix this, she said. I'm sorry. The crevasse's head dipped just slightly, but enough. Kael woke to darkness. The glow strips had cycled off night simulation, and for a moment she couldn't remember where she was. Then the crevasse's breathing registered, closer than before. She tensed. A weight pressed against her side, warm and solid. She turned her head carefully. The creature was curled beside her. Her first instinct was panic, but the crevasse's breathing was slow, even. Its body heat soaked into her, chasing away the cold that had settled deep in her bones. Kael exhaled shakily. She didn't move, didn't push it away. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she understood this wasn't trust. This was survival, pack behavior. Two predators sharing warmth in the dark. She closed her eyes and let herself sleep. When the glow strips flickered on, the crevasse was already awake. It had moved back to its corner, watching her. Kael sat up slowly, joints screaming. Her head swam. Dehydration, probably, or exhaustion, or both. She needed water, food, something. The thought came unbidden. What if I don't make it? She pushed it down, her mother's voice again. You're a Rehn, we don't quit. Kael stood. The room tilted. She braced herself against the wall and waited for it to steady. When it did, she looked at the crevasse. I need you to do something, she said. I need you to not eat me for one more day. The creature tilted its head. I know you're hungry, Kael continued, but if you kill me, you're dead too. They're not opening that door until the timer runs out, so we're stuck, you and me, partners. She didn't know if it understood, but she needed to believe it did. The third day began with blood. Kael woke to find the crevasse gnawing on its own injured leg, trying to relieve the pressure. She scrambled over, hands raised. Stop, stop, you're making it worse. The creature snarled, a real warning this time. Kael froze, then slowly she sat back on her heels. I know it hurts, she said, but you have to stop. The crevasse's jaws were stained red. It looked at her, pits flaring, and for a moment, Kael thought it might attack. Then it whined, a high, thin sound that didn't match its size, and collapsed onto its side. Kael's chest ached. She thought of the ranch dogs again, the way they'd limp to her when hurt, trusting her to fix what they couldn't. She thought of the horses she'd gentled, the barn cats she'd bottle-fed. This was different. This was a creature bred to kill. But the pain in its eyes was the same. She crawled closer. The crevasse watched her but didn't move. Kael placed her hand on its flank, feeling the rapid beat of its heart beneath the hide. I'm sorry, she whispered. The creature's breathing slowed, its pits tracked her face. Then, impossibly, it rested its head on the floor and closed its sensory slits. Kael stayed beside it, one hand on its side, until the trembling stopped. The extraction alarm sounded at hour 71. Kael was half asleep, slumped against the wall, when the shrill beep cut through the silence. The crevasse lifted its head sharply. The door, the one Kael had entered through, began to unseal. Wait, Kael said, voice raw. She looked at the creature. They're going to take you back, wherever they keep you, and it's going to be the same, alone, starving. The crevasse's pits locked onto her. I don't know if you understand me, Kael continued, but I'm going to try to fix this, I promise. The door hissed open, light flooded in, blinding after 3 days of dim glow strips. Kael raised a hand to shield her eyes. Figures in biohazard suits stepped inside, weapons raised. Subject Rehn, step away from the predator, a voice barked through a helmet speaker. Kael didn't move. It's injured. It needs medical. Step away. One of the suited figures aimed a stunner at the crevasse. Kael's pulse spiked. Don't, please. It didn't attack me. The stunner fired. The crevasse convulsed once, then went still. Kael lunged forward, but hands grabbed her, yanking her back. No, don't hurt it. Sedate her, someone said. A cold prick in her neck. The world blurred. The last thing Kael saw before darkness took her was the crevasse's chest rising and falling, still breathing, still alive. For now, Kael woke in the medical bay, flat on her back, staring at a sterile white ceiling. Her throat burned. Her limbs felt like lead. An IV line snaked into her arm, pumping fluids she could taste in the back of her mouth. Saline, electrolytes, something bitter. A Centauran medic appeared above her, scanning her vitals with a handheld device. You're awake. Good. How do you feel? Like I was locked in a box with a starving animal, Kael croaked. The medic's expression didn't change. You survived. That's more than the council expected. Where's the crevasse? The medic paused. That's not your concern. It's injured. It's being handled. The medic tapped something into the scanner. Your vitals are stable. You'll be discharged in 6 hours. After that, you're to report to adjudicator Shal for debrief. Kael tried to sit up. The medic pressed a hand to her shoulder, firm but not rough. Rest, doctor's orders. Kael sank back, jaw clenched. She stared at the ceiling and counted the seconds until she could move again. Varen was waiting when Kael finally stumbled out of the medical bay. Her roommate's membrane flashed pale orange, relief mixed with anger. You idiot, Varen hissed, pulling Kael into a side corridor. You could have died. I didn't. That's not the point. Varen's voice dropped. They're saying you tamed it, that you somehow bonded with a Class 7 in 3 days. Do you know how that sounds? Kael frowned. I didn't tame it. We just coexisted. Kael. Varen's membrane flickered. Crevasse are pack hunters. They don't coexist. They kill or they die. The fact that it didn't rip you apart is… She stopped, searching for words. It's impossible. Then maybe the date is wrong, Kael said flatly. Varen stared at her. Or maybe you're more dangerous than they thought. The words hung between them. Kael felt something cold settle in her gut. She'd survived. She should feel victorious. Instead, she felt like she'd just painted a target on her own back. Where's the crevasse? She asked again. Varen hesitated. Containment level 9, they're studying it. Kael's fists clenched. Studying it how? I don't know, but Kael, Varen grabbed her arm. Don't, whatever you're thinking, don't. You're cleared, your record's clean. If you push this, they'll find another reason to. They starved it, Kael said, voice low. They put it in that chamber knowing it was already weak. They wanted it to kill me. I know, and now they're going to dissect it to figure out why it didn't. Varen's membrane paled. You don't know that, but Kael did. She'd seen the look in the guard's eyes when they pulled her out, not relief, curiosity. She turned toward the lift. Kael, wait, I'm going to debrief, Kael said. Don't worry. But as the lift doors closed, she was already planning her route to containment level 9. Adjudicator Shal's office was smaller than the tribunal chamber but no less intimidating. The Centauran sat behind a curved desk, fingers steepled, watching Kael with unreadable eyes. Sit. Kael sat. Her legs ached, but she kept her back straight. 72 hours, Shal said. No food, no water. Locked in a confined space with a creature that could have killed you in seconds. And yet here you are, unharmed. He leaned forward. How? Kael met his gaze. I didn't fight it. You're saying you did nothing? I'm saying I didn't treat it like an enemy. Shal's expression shifted, interest maybe, or suspicion. Explain. Kael chose her words carefully. The crevasse was starving, injured, scared. It didn't want to fight any more than I did, so I gave it space. Showed it I wasn't a threat. Crevasse don't respond to submission displays. Maybe the data's incomplete. Shal's eyes narrowed. Or maybe you're lying. I'm not. Then you won't mind a neural scan to verify. Kael's pulse kicked. Neural scans weren't invasive, but they were thorough. They'd see everything, her fear, her anger, the way she'd curled beside the crevasse in the dark. They'd twist it into something it wasn't. I survived your test, Kael said quietly. That was the deal. My record's clear. Your record is conditionally clear, Shal corrected, pending review. If we determine you used unauthorized methods, what methods? Kael's voice sharpened. I had nothing, no tools, no weapons, just me and a dying animal in a box. You wanted to see if a human could survive. I did, that should be enough. Shal studied her for a long moment, then he tapped a control on his desk. A holographic display flickered to life, security footage from the chamber. Kael watched herself on screen, small and pale, kneeling beside the crevasse, touching its leg, the creature lowering its head. This, Shal said, is not survival. This is dominance. Kael's breath caught. No, that's not. You broke a Class 7 predator in 3 days. Whether intentionally or not, you established yourself as the apex. Do you understand what that means? It means I didn't want to die. It means, Shal said slowly, that you're exactly what we feared. The words hit like a slap. Kael felt her chest tighten, anger rising. I followed your rules. I passed your test. If you're going to punish me for that, just say it. Shal's gaze didn't waver. I'm not punishing you, I'm protecting the Academy. He closed the hologram. You're dismissed. But Kael, he waited until she looked at him. Stay away from containment level 9. Kael stood. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. They both knew she was going anyway. Containment level 9 was deep, 3 sublevels below the main Academy structure, accessible only by cargo lift. Kael waited until third shift when the corridors emptied and the security monitors cycled to low-power mode. She'd stolen a maintenance badge from the laundry annex, easy, since no one watched the humans closely, and clipped it to her collar. The lift descended in silence. Kael's reflection stared back at her from the polished doors, hollow-eyed, hair-tangled, jaw set. She looked like her mother. The thought steadied her. The doors opened onto a dim corridor lined with reinforced doors. Each one had a small viewport and a biometric lock. Kael moved quickly, checking each window. Empty, empty, storage, empty. Then she found it. The crevasse lay on its side in a sterile white cell, limbs restrained by mag clamps. Its injured leg was bandaged, but the rest of its body was covered in sensor pads. A medical drone hovered nearby, recording vitals. The creature's sensory pits were open but unfocused, dull with sedation. Kael's hands shook as she pressed her stolen badge to the lock. It beeped red. Wrong clearance. She tried again. Red. Come on, she whispered. Behind her, a voice. That's not going to work. Kael spun. A figure stepped from the shadows, Vrath, older, wearing a research lab coat. His compound eyes gleamed. Dr. Sethai's, Kael breathed. You shouldn't be here, he said. But he didn't raise an alarm. He stepped closer, studying her. You're the human, the one who survived. Kael straightened. I want to see it. Why? Because it's dying. Sethai's tilted his head. It's sedated, comfortable. It's alone, Kael said, and it's scared. I can see it. Sethai's was quiet for a moment, then he tapped his own badge against the lock. The door hissed open. 5 minutes. Kael stepped inside. The crevasse's head lifted slightly, pits tracking her. Despite the sedation, despite the restraints, it recognized her. Kael knelt beside it, placing a hand on its flank. I'm sorry, she whispered. I tried. The creature made that low rumble again, the one that wasn't quite a growl. Its pits focused on her face, and then slowly it closed them. Kael looked up at Sethai's. What are you going to do with it? Study it, then return it to quarantine. It'll die there, probably. Kael's jaw tightened. Let me take it. Sethai's mandibles clicked. A Vrathai laugh. You're serious? Yes, and where exactly would you keep a Class 7 predator? I'll figure it out. Sethai stared at her, then, impossibly, he smiled. You really did bond with it, didn't you? Kael didn't answer. She didn't need to. Sethai sighed. I can't release it, but, he glanced at the drone. I can ensure its care improves, better quarters. Proper feeding schedule on one condition. What? You help me understand how you did it. Kael frowned. Did what? Survived. Sethai's crouched beside her, his voice dropping. Crevasse are territorial apex predators. They don't coexist, they don't yield. But that creature, he gestured at the crevasse, it yielded to you. Why? Kael looked at the creature's closed pits, the steady rise and fall of its chest. She thought of the cold nights on the ranch, the way frightened animals would calm when you stopped trying to control them, when you just sat with them. I don't know, she said honestly. Maybe it just wanted someone to stay. Sethai studied her for a long moment. Then he stood. Your 5 minutes are up. Kael rose. She touched the crevasse's flank one last time. I'll come back, she whispered. I promise. The creature's pits flared once, then it settled as if believing her. Kael returned to her quarters to find them stripped bare. Her terminal was gone. Her few personal items, photos, clothing, the battered copy of Walden her grandfather had given her vanished. Only the sleep pod and desk remained, bolted to the walls like bones. Vurin stood in the doorway, membrane flickering distress orange. They came an hour ago, Vurin said quietly. Security. They didn't say why. Kael's stomach dropped. Did they take your things too? No, just yours. Of course, just hers. Kael sank onto the edge of the pod, hands shaking. She'd known there would be consequences. She just hoped they'd wait a little longer. "Where did you go?" Varen asked. "Nowhere. Kael, I went to see the crevasse." The words came out flat, defeated. "I needed to know it was okay." Varen's membrane paled. "You broke into containment?" "I didn't break in, someone let me in. That's worse." Varen's voice pitched high. "Do you have any idea what they'll do if they find out?" "They already know." Kael gestured at the empty room. "Why else would they do this?" Varen was silent for a moment, then she drifted closer, her voice dropping. "There's a hearing tomorrow, closed session. The council's calling witnesses." Kael looked up sharply. "Witnesses to what?" "To you." Varen's membrane flickered. "To what you did in that chamber." "I survived, that's what I did." "They don't see it that way." Varen hesitated. "They're saying you're a security risk, that humans are too unpredictable, that letting you stay sets a dangerous precedent." Kael's chest tightened. "So they're going to expel me anyway." "I don't know, maybe, unless—" Varen stopped. "Unless what?" Varen's membrane shifted to pale blue. "Resolve. Unless you give them a reason to keep you." The hearing chamber was smaller than the tribunal room, but the weight of judgment felt the same. Kael stood in the center, hands unbound this time, but no less trapped. Around her, 6 council members, 2 Senerin, 2 Vrathi, 1 Quelix, 1 Lycerin sat in a semicircle. Behind them, observers filled the gallery, faculty, students, researchers. Kael recognized Dr. Sethais in the back row. He didn't meet her eyes. The lead Senerin, Councillor Vresh, spoke first. Kael Rehn. "You stand before us not as the accused, but as a subject of inquiry. The council has reviewed the data from your confinement trial. We have questions." Kael nodded. "I'll answer what I can. How did you survive 72 hours with a crevasse predator?" "I didn't fight it." "That's not an answer," a Vrathi councillor snapped. "Crevasse are biologically incapable of non-aggression toward non-pack entities. You should have been killed within minutes." "Maybe your biology data is incomplete," Kael said evenly. "Or maybe fear changes behavior." Vresh leaned forward. "You're suggesting the crevasse was afraid of you?" "I'm suggesting it was afraid of dying alone." The chamber went silent. Kael could feel the weight of every gaze on her. She forced herself to keep breathing, keep her voice steady. "The crevasse was starving," she continued. "Injured. Isolated for who knows how long before I got there. It didn't want to hunt. It wanted to survive, so I gave it space. I didn't threaten it. I didn't try to dominate it. I just existed in the same space without making things worse." "That's not dominance," Vresh said slowly. "That's empathy," the Quelix councillor finished. Her membrane shimmered. "You're describing empathy." Kael met her gaze. "Yes." The Vrathi councillor clicked his mandibles, agitated. "Empathy is irrelevant in a predator-prey dynamic. The creature should have killed you regardless of your emotional state." "Then maybe," Kael said, voice hardening, "your definitions are wrong. Maybe the problem isn't that I survived, it's that you can't understand how." The chamber erupted. Voices overlapped, protests, arguments, demands for clarity. Vresh raised a hand and the noise subsided. "You're walking a dangerous line," he said quietly. "Questioning the council's data is one thing, questioning our competence is another." "I'm not questioning your competence," Kael said. "I'm questioning your assumptions. You assumed the crevasse would kill me because that's what your data said it should do, but data doesn't account for context, for pain, for fear. For the choice not to be a monster." She paused, heart hammering. "I didn't dominate that creature," she said. "I just refused to be its enemy, and it did the same." The council deliberated for 2 hours. Kael waited in an antechamber alone, staring at the blank walls. Varen had tried to stay, but the guards had turned her away. So Kael sat and waited and thought about what came next. If they expelled her, she'd go back to Earth, back to the ranch, to wide skies and open land. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like failure. The door opened. Vresh stepped inside, expression unreadable. "The council has reached a decision," he said. "You may return to the chamber." Kael stood, her legs felt numb. The chamber was quieter now. The observers had thinned, leaving only the core council and a handful of researchers. Kael stood in the center again, hands at her sides. Vresh spoke. "After deliberation, the council has determined that your survival was not the result of aggression, coercion, or unlawful enhancement. It was, as you stated, the result of behavioral adaptation on both sides." Kael's breath caught. "Does that mean—" "It means," Vresh continued, "that your record remains clear. You are permitted to continue your studies at the academy." Relief flooded through her, so intense it made her dizzy. Thank you, however, Vresh's tone sharpened. Your actions in Containment Level 9 constitute a separate violation. Unauthorized access to restricted research areas. We cannot overlook this. The relief curdled. I just wanted to make sure it was okay. And in doing so, you demonstrated a pattern of disregard for established protocol. Vresh glanced at the other counselors. The penalty for such violations is typically expulsion, but given the unusual circumstances, we are prepared to offer an alternative. Kael's pulse hammered. What alternative? The Quelix counselor spoke. You will work with Dr. Sethais on a xenobiology research project, specifically studying interspecies behavioral adaptation. Your first-hand experience makes you uniquely qualified. Kael blinked. You want me to study the crevasse? We want you to study yourself, the Lyceran counselor said, their voice soft but firm, to help us understand how a human from a Deathworld can coexist with an apex predator. If we can replicate that understanding, it may change how we approach conservation, rehabilitation, even diplomacy. Vresh stood. You have 24 hours to decide. If you accept, you'll begin immediately. If you decline, your expulsion will proceed as scheduled. Kael's mind raced. Work with Sethais, study the crevasse, turn her survival into something meaningful. It was more than she'd hoped for. I accept, she said. Vresh nodded. Then dismissed. Dr. Sethais' lab was a controlled chaos of monitors, specimen tanks, and data pads scattered across every surface. He looked up when Kael entered, mandibles twitching in what might have been amusement. So, he said, you're my new research assistant. Looks like it. Good. He gestured at a monitor displaying the crevasse's vitals. Because I need your help with something. Kael stepped closer. The readout showed elevated stress hormones, irregular sleep cycles, refusal to eat. What's wrong? It's declining, Sethais said bluntly. Ever since you left, it's been uncooperative, won't eat. Won't engage with enrichment protocols. It's as if, he paused, searching for words, as if it's morning. Kael's chest ached. Can I see it? Sethais studied her, then he nodded. Follow me. The crevasse was in a larger enclosure now, still sterile but with space to move, a water trough, even a makeshift den made of stacked cushions. But the creature lay in the center, motionless, its sensory pits half closed. Kael pressed her hand to the observation glass. It's dying. Not yet, Sethais said, but close. Let me in. Absolutely not, please. Kael looked at him. You said you wanted to understand how I survived. Let me show you. Sethais' mandibles clicked, then slowly he unlocked the door. Kael stepped inside. The crevasse's head lifted immediately, pits flaring. It didn't move, didn't rise, but its focus sharpened. Kael walked forward slowly, hands loose at her sides. Hey, she said softly. I told you I'd come back. The creature rumbled that low, chest-deep sound. Kael knelt. The crevasse dragged itself closer, limbs trembling with effort, and pressed its head against her leg. Kael's throat tightened. She placed a hand on its skull, feeling the warmth of its hide, the rapid beat of its heart. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry I left. The crevasse's breathing slowed, its pits focused on her face, and then, impossibly, it purred, a vibration that resonated through the floor. Behind the glass, Sethais stared. By the Accord, he breathed. It imprinted on you. Kael didn't look away from the crevasse. What does that mean? It means, Sethais said slowly, that you didn't just survive, you became its pack. Word spread fast. By the next morning, the entire academy knew the human girl had tamed a crevasse. The hallways buzzed with whispers. Some students avoided her. Others stared openly, a mix of fear and fascination in their eyes. Kael kept her head down, moving between classes and the lab, ignoring the murmurs. But she couldn't ignore the summons. Counselor Vresh met her in his private office, a small room overlooking the academy's central courtyard. Through the window, Kael could see students gathered in clusters, their body language animated, talking about her probably. Sit, Vresh said. Kael sat. If this is about the crevasse, it's not. Vresh poured 2 cups of something steaming from a thermal carafe. He slid one across the desk. Tea. Terran blend, I thought you might appreciate it. Kael took the cup, surprised. The scent was familiar, chamomile maybe, with something citrus underneath. She sipped. It was warm, soothing. Thank you. Vresh sat back, his gaze steady. Dr. Sethais tells me the crevasse is responding to treatment, eating again. Sleeping? Yes, because of you. Kael set the cup down. I just visit, that's all. That's not all, Vresh said quietly. That creature was dying, now it's thriving. Do you understand what that means? Kael frowned. It means it needed a friend. It means, Vresh said, that you possess a skill the Trilateral Council has spent centuries trying to develop, the ability to bridge predator and sapient, to forge connection without coercion. He leaned forward. We've tried chemical conditioning, neural mapping, even genetic modification. Nothing worked. And then you walk into a chamber with no tools, no training, and accomplish what our best xenobiologists couldn't. Kael's pulse quickened. I didn't do anything special. You did, Vresh said. You treated it like a person. The words hung between them. Kael thought of the crevasse in the dark, its body pressed against hers, the way it had chosen warmth over violence. What do you want from me? She asked. I want you to teach us, Vresh said simply. Not just about the crevasse, about you. About how humans think, how they adapt, how they survive. Because if we can understand that, we can change the way we approach every apex species in the Accord. Kael stared at him. You're asking me to be a case study. I'm asking you to be a bridge. Vresh's voice softened. Your species has been isolated for generations because we feared what you might do, but you've shown us something different. You've shown us that fear doesn't have to define you, that empathy can exist even in the most dangerous circumstances. He paused. Stay, he said. Help us not as a test subject, as a teacher. Kael looked out the window. The students below were dispersing now, heading to classes, to labs, to whatever futures awaited them. She thought of Earth, of the ranch, of the life she'd left behind. It felt distant now. Like a story someone else had lived. Okay, she said quietly, I'll stay. The research project took shape over the following weeks. Kael spent mornings in the lab, afternoons in classes, and evenings in the crevasse's enclosure. Dr. Sethais observed, recorded, analyzed. He asked questions, some clinical, some probing. How do you know when it's safe to approach? I don't, Kael said. I just watch, listen. If its pits are focused, it's paying attention. If they're relaxed, it's comfortable. If its tail twitches, it's agitated. And you learned this in 3 days? I learned it on a ranch in Montana. Kael smiled faintly. Horses, dogs, cattle, they all have tells. You just have to pay attention. Sethais clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Remarkable, you're applying cross-species behavioral patterns. I guess. No, Sethais said, not guess. This is instinctive pattern recognition. A survival adaptation. Humans evolved alongside predators. You learned to read them because your ancestors who couldn't died. Kael frowned. So you're saying I survived because of evolution? I'm saying, Sethais said, that you survived because you come from a world where everything wants to kill you. And instead of becoming killers yourselves, you learned to understand. The breakthrough came on a cold evening 3 weeks into the project. Kael was sitting in the crevasse's enclosure, back against the wall, reading a data pad. The creature lay beside her, head resting on her thigh. Its injured leg had healed, though it still limped slightly when it walked. Sethais entered, carrying a small device. I want to try something. Kael looked up. What? A neural interface, non-invasive. It'll let us see what the crevasse perceives when it looks at you. Kael's stomach twisted. Why? Because I have a theory. Sethais crouched beside them. Crevasse identify pack members through scent markers and pheromonal signatures, but you're human, you don't produce the same chemicals, so how does it recognize you? Kael glanced at the crevasse. Does it hurt? No, it's a passive scan, like an MRI. Okay. Sethais placed the device on the crevasse's skull. It hummed softly. On a nearby monitor, images began to form, abstract, shifting, difficult to parse. Then slowly a shape emerged, a human silhouette, but not quite right. The proportions were elongated, the features sharpened. Around the figure, faint threads of color, red, gold, blue, pulsed in rhythm with Kael's heartbeat. What is that? Kael whispered. Thermal signature, Sethais said, odd. It's seeing your body heat, your heart rate, even your brainwave activity. To the crevasse, you're not human. Your data, a living pattern, it's memorized. Kael stared at the screen. The figure on the monitor raised a hand. She realized belatedly that she'd just done the same. The crevasse rumbled, pressing closer. It's imprinted on your biometric signature, Sethais continued. Every time it sees you, hears you, smells you, it recognizes that pattern. You're not pack in the traditional sense, you're something new, a hybrid category. So it doesn't see me as prey. No, Sethais said, it sees you as family. The news reached the council within hours. By the next morning, Kael was summoned again, this time to the full assembly chamber. Every counselor was present, along with representatives from 24 Accord species. The gallery was packed. Kael stood in the center, the crevasse beside her. It had taken an hour to coax the creature into the transport pod, but once Kael had climbed in with it, it had settled. Now it stood at her side, tail swaying gently, pits scanning the room. Vresh spoke. Members of the assembly, you've all read Dr. Sethi's report. What you see before you is proof of concept. A human and a Class 7 predator coexisting peacefully, not through restraint or sedation but through mutual recognition. A Vrathite delegate rose. With respect, Counselor, this is one case, an anomaly. It doesn't prove humans are safe. It proves, Vresh said, that the potential exists, and if one human can bridge this gap, others might as well. Another delegate, Lysarin, spoke. What you're proposing is a reopening of Earth's quarantine status. That requires unanimous approval. I know, then I vote no, the Vrathite said flatly. Humans are too unpredictable, too aggressive. This girl may be an exception, but her species as a whole is no more dangerous than yours, Kael said. The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to her. Kael's pulse hammered, but she kept her voice steady. You keep calling us aggressive, she continued. But we're not, we're survivors. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day, and we learned to adapt, to cooperate, to empathize, because that's how you survive on Earth, not by being the strongest, by being the smartest. The kindest, she gestured at the crevasse. This creature should have killed me. According to your data, it had to kill me, but it didn't because I gave it a choice. I showed it that survival didn't have to mean violence, and it chose me. The crevasse's pits flared. It pressed against her leg, and Kael placed a hand on its head. You're afraid of what humans might do, she said. I get that, but maybe you should be more afraid of what you're losing by keeping us out, because we're not monsters. We're just people, and people can change. The vote took 3 hours. Kael waited in the antechamber, the crevasse curled at her feet. Vurin had snuck in somehow, her membrane flickering anxious blue. You did good, Vurin whispered. I don't know, Kael said. They might still say no. Then they're idiots? Kael smiled faintly. Thanks. The door opened. Vresh stepped inside, his expression unreadable. The assembly has voted. Kael stood. The crevasse rose with her, pits locked on Vresh. By a margin of 16-8, Vresh said, Earth's quarantine status has been lifted. Conditional reopening, limited visas for approved individuals, trade and cultural exchange to resume within the year. Kael's breath left her in a rush. We won. You won, Vresh corrected. He smiled just slightly. Congratulations, Ambassador Rehn. Kael blinked. What? The Assembly has appointed you as Earth's first Accord representative, pending your acceptance, of course. Kael looked at Vurin. Her roommate's membrane flashed brilliant gold joy. She looked at the crevasse. It rumbled low and steady. I accept, Kael said. The transport shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, engines humming. Kael pressed her face to the viewport, watching the continents unfold below, familiar shapes she'd memorized as a child. North America, Montana, home. Beside her, the crevasse shifted, pits tracking the movement outside. It had grown over the past year, filling out, muscle replacing the gauntness. Its injured leg had healed completely. Now it wore a slim collar, not a restraint, but a universal translator keyed to Kael's biometrics. When it rumbled, the device rendered it as low, growling words. Safe? Yeah, Kael said. Safe. The shuttle landed on the outskirts of the ranch. Kael's mother was waiting at the edge of the field, arms crossed, eyes red. When Kael stepped off the ramp, her mother ran. They collided in a hug that knocked the air from Kael's lungs. I missed you, her mother whispered. God, I missed you. I missed you too, Kael said. Her mother pulled back, looking past her at the crevasse. The creature stood at the base of the ramp, watching, waiting. Her mother's eyes widened. Is that? Yeah, Kael said. This is Krev. Krev, this is my mom. The crevasse rumbled. The translator said, Pack. Kael's mother stared, then slowly she smiled. Yeah, she said. Pack. Krev's pits flared. It limped forward and pressed its head against her mother's leg. Her mother laughed, a wet, shaky sound, and placed a hand on its skull. Well, she said. I guess we'd better get you both inside. That night, Kael sat on the porch, Krev curled at her feet, staring up at the stars. Somewhere up there, the Academy continued its work. Sethi's was running new trials, testing her methods on other apex species. Vurin had been accepted into the Accord's diplomatic corps, and Earth was opening slowly, carefully to the wider galaxy. Kael thought of the chamber, the darkness, the choice she'd made not to fight. It felt like a lifetime ago. Krev rumbled. The translator said, bright. Kael looked up. The stars were bright tonight, scattered across the black like promises. Yeah, she said, they are. She closed her eyes. For the first time in over a year, she felt like she could breathe.